Welcome back to another edition of the Friday Golf Podcast. I am your host, Andy Johnson, and today I am joined by the Patterson Club's Director of Grounds, Jason Meersman. I've known Jason for a number of years now, and I've always wanted to have him on the podcast. I don't know why it's taken so long. He is quite the personality, and I think this was a super fun conversation. It's very much about life, golf courses, golf course maintenance, and a little bit about the Patterson Club, which is about to undergo a renovation in due time. We'll see how quickly it goes. But thank you to Jason for coming on. Before we get to Jason, just one thing that we're doing for the company, we launched a T-shirt to support Hurricane Helene relief efforts in Western North Carolina. Obviously, crazy thing that happened there and a disaster. It's unbelievable to look at, and we want to do our part. So this T-shirt is our Donald Ross in North Carolina T-shirt. I think it's an awesome T-shirt. I'm wearing it actually right now. It's under a sweatshirt, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you can't see it. But the T-shirt is a really neat T-shirt, and all the proceeds will go to the relief fund. Big thanks for everybody who's bought this already. It has been up less than 24 hours. It's exceeded our expectations. At this point, we just want to deliver as big of a check as we can. And to that extent, all listeners from Florida, I'm praying for you. I hope that Milton is not a catastrophic event as many are predicting. So thoughts and prayers to both North Carolinians and Floridians who are having to evacuate. Be safe. And if you're interested in buying the shirt and supporting the relief efforts, go to proshop.thefriedegg.com. All right, let's talk about Toro. Toro is the only brand with a full line of equipment and irrigation products to keep your golf course in top condition. Toro is serious about R&D, and they're always out there listening to superintendents so they can develop products that can help you solve your biggest challenges. And when it comes to local service and support, their distributor network is second to none. See how Toro is always solving and always evolving at Toro.com. Jason, what's it like growing up in a turf family, a superintendent family?
Great question. I almost don't remember. Growing up, third generation golf course superintendent. It was great. I think I was fired multiple times by my father, but next day was brought back onto the team. With an ice cold water saying you're late for work, get up and get to work. It was great.
How are you late to work when you were in the house? Like, I assume you were getting a ride.
Oh yeah. No, my dad used to sit at the bottom of my steps and yell, "I can't see you," and you'd be dragging yourself to the top of the stairs. And some days it would just be a little ice cold glass of water. And then my brother got keen into doing that a couple times, as if he was playing dad's role. But no, it was early mornings. It was amazing people. Growing up on a golf course, you can't grow up on a golf course and then try to go to a different career path. It's next to impossible because of the people at the club, from the starters to the snack shack people, to the members, to the daily feed, depending where you are. It's littered with great people who share that passion that we all do for this beautiful game of golf, But yeah, it was an active childhood. It was basically the golf course was basically my brother and I's babysitter, and we'd go early in the morning. And I remember at like 12 years old picking up trash and helping cut cups and then the rest of the day, Dan and I would go play golf, hit range balls, maybe build a fort in the woods. Always something to do.
That's using the golf course effectively as your playground from
Yeah,
like
yeah.
where if you remember back when you were a kid, was it like when you were 10 or 9, were you like chopping at the bit to go work there? Was that the kind of the
Oh
dynamic? I
yeah,
remember like with me in golf, like my dad would go play golf with my grandpa and uncle, or he'd go play early in the morning. And especially when we were on vacations, like I
yeah.
just was like, what, why can't I come?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and especially with like the equipment for us, you get there and you'd be seeing these guys run this big equipment. You're like, "Ooh, I want to try that." Dan was a little more methodical than I was when it comes to that. But I could, yeah, at a young age, I could operate almost every piece of equipment we had, and really got into that aspect of it. I think at one point I was my father's mechanic slash bartender after he became the the general manager and things of that nature. But yeah, exactly that. You would see everybody working, having fun, and you're like, oh, I want to get in there. And yeah, I didn't really have a choice, but
Your family tree kind of people talk about like superintendent trees. Your family tree, is illustrious. So where your grandfather got into turf, where did he work, and could you just explain kind of the family in golf maintenance?
yeah. So the Meersman family kind of got into the golf world through a small par three golf course that was originally like a playland type place. It was called Playland, and it was in South Bend, Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, and it had go karts, and my grandfather was like the mechanic for the go karts, and was that handy everything man at Playland, and a spectacular place. I remember playing as a kid. However, when the owner decided to create a par three golf course and change Playland into more of a golf centric arcade slash driving range, lit up at night par three golf course. So nothing better than waiting 7 people deep on each tee box. And you put your little ball in the thing that goes down to the bottom, and when your ball shows up, it's time for you to play. Um, but so my grandfather started running that, did a great job there, did a great job to the point where South Bend Country Club, which I believe at that time was ranked like second in the state of Indiana,
That
gave him a
that
call.
is a cool golf course.
Very cool golf course. Thank you for saying that.
But Nick
Yeah.
Nate, superintendent of South Bend, has been on this podcast.
Oh, really? I did not. Oh, I'll have to go back. Sorry for my ignorance on that one.
You guys got to meet. You would get along. He's a great guy. A diehard golfer, just complete golf nut like you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, we actually stopped by looking for him the last time I was in South Bend. My father and I were, God rest my mother's soul, but we were touring our old homes, our own stopping grounds, and doing a little tour. And we stopped at South Bend Country Club, and my dad and I toured the maintenance facility. And unfortunately, he wasn't on property, but we got to see some of his staff and just shake our heads at like, wow, how time just changes and how it just keeps going. But yeah, special piece of property there. And a lot of great memories, a lot of great stories. Not so many of my memories as much as stories I know from there. And anyway, but so that was kind of my grandfather's start of his career. He was considered one of the gurus at that time in the area, if he's telling the story properly. Steve Glossinger, the gentleman I did my apprenticeship for, worked in that area, and had a great deal of respect for him and the product he always put out and his passion for what we do. And
before we get to your dad, what's your favorite story from the South Bend? You said that they're not your stories, but lots of stories. What's a story from that period of your family kind of tree that you particularly enjoy?
Yeah, Andy, this is a no-brainer. So my very favorite story about my grandfather, and there's many of them. However, I've heard it from a couple different people, and I think Steve Gloucester told it the best about how he was known as being the superintendent, the only superintendent ever to knock a member out cold on the range tee and keep his job. I don't know what the complaint was, but I know my grandfather had a short fuse, and unfortunately, he took a swing, knocked the guy out cold. Next day, Eric Parsesian walks up to him and slaps him on the shoulder and says, "Attaboy, Jimmy. Nobody liked that. Maybe SOB or..." Anyway, so the old Polish man had a or Belgian Polish, whatever we are, had a short fuse. And anyways, Eric Parsesian gave him the pass, So
I gotta say, I don't think that would fly today.
I don't think so either. Every member is my favorite member. All right, that's how we play it these days.
That's right. That's right. You have everyone's a favorite. That's a good political stance to have.
Yeah, and it has its truth, to be quite honest with you. There, you got to love everything. It's easier to do that than the opposite.
So anyways, your grandpa's at South Bend, and then I imagine your dad starts working there for him, correct?
Yeah. So I think all of his siblings at one point worked for him. My father, my uncle became golf course superintendents from there. They took over municipal golf courses in South Bend. Eberhart and Erskine, I believe, is my Uncle Pat's first job from there. I think it was. Anyway, I might be missing that a little bit, but I remember very well growing up there. My uncle lived on the golf course, and maybe my cousins and my brother would terrorize the the maintenance dump, or building forts or running around on the property late at night. And it was the greatest playground ever. And then Eberhart, where my father grew up, where we grew up, right down the street. We'd walk there, ride our bikes there. It's another really great golf course that the St. Joe River cuts through. Some really beautiful bridges, and I love going back there with him. If it's not there, it's South Pine View Golf Club, where we also grew up, like from about 12 on. It was 36-hole golf course there, but I like going back there with my father and pointing out his terrible tree plantings. Wow, has this fairway got narrow? Anyway, it's easy to.
Are they silver maples or what? That's a tree de jour of the Midwest. Midwest Muni is the silver maple. My favorite thing about having one of them in my backyard was that the thing about silver maples is they hold on to their trees really long. In the Midwest. Yeah, their leaves. So they routinely would hold on to their leaves almost into December, and you're looking at this tree. Every other leaf in your yard is gone. You've disposed of it, and you're looking at this tree, and it's like that asshole won't get rid of its leaves. And then, sure enough,
fall cleanup.
when it would snow, knock all the leaves down, and you're looking in your backyard. It's like, oh, perfect. We got snow and leaves, and I'm going to go out there and just for golf course superintendents, I could only imagine that feeling magnified by having hundreds of them.
Oh, absolutely,
a giant property.
Absolutely, yeah, and you just that's exactly right, because like the fall cleanup, you're sitting there waiting for. I always tell my guys, get the tree shaker out, as if we're actually gonna get the tree shaker out. Let's speed up this process. One year one of my first years here at Patterson, Hurricane Sandy came through, and we lost a lot of trees. But one of the silver linings, I hate to say there's ever a silver lining with a hurricane. However, one of the silver linings, we woke up that next day, came out here, and I don't know where the leaves went. I mean, they're in Ireland, a couple weeks later. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, well, this is nice. We'll just chop up all these trees and make some firewood, and that's it.
There's nothing better. There's nothing better than, and I imagine, again, this is multiplied by X when you're a superintendent. But there's nothing better when you look out on your yard, and this is the perfect time of year to have this discussion. When you look out at your yard, you see just leaves everywhere. And then there's just a really windy day, and you look out later that day, and there's no leaves.
Yeah.
And they just blew into the neighbor's yard. Not my problem anymore.
Yeah. You keep them over there. Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a tree right in front. My neighbor's tree actually comes over to my yard. I got a nice little white picket fence though that plays defense, and then I get out the big blower and just kind of shove them back halfway.
Do you ever bring maintenance equipment from the shop to your house?
Never. No, come on now.
Like, have you ever done like an aeration? Have you brought like the aerator over to do it on your own yard? Like, do you do that?
I don't think
you say never facetious. Really?
No, I have actually asked grounds chairs, like, hey, I owe my wife. I think it was like one of our early anniversary presents. She's like, Jay, our yard is awful. And we'd been living there for about 3 years, but it hadn't struck me exactly what I wanted to do yet. And I was like, look, is it okay if I take the John Deere loader backhoe over there? And I drove it all the way there with the flashers on it. I got the thumbs up and I don't know. Like, Andy, if I'm unemployed after this comment, no, but I did get to borrow at that time. But you try obviously not to do or mix any of that stuff. But at the same time, it's right there. You're like, oh, baby, I could use a good aerification. Give me that 648 over to my house would be lovely. But it's
got to be a conflicted feeling.
Absolutely.
Your yard, because like, I imagine you do this all day. The last thing you want to do is come home and look at it you have to almost detach yourself, right?
Oh, the shoemaker thing is so true. Like, you come home and the last thing you want to do is go out and scar up your yard and start seeding because it's been an awful year. And, my yard typically looks a lot worse than the golf course. So that's good. It's good news. It is, you don't want to come home and do that stuff. I actually have a synthetic putting green in my backyard and a little tee box. I call it Poo National because of the dog poop. It's nice just firing up the blower. I'll fire up a blower any day of the week, but yeah, going out there push mowing.
Is it embarrassing at all to have a synthetic in your backyard? It's not. There's no shame. No,
I'm not top dressing. I'm not going home after doing it all day to do that all over again. No chance. No,
like, in your back of your head, you could have as good of a green as you want back there, but you've gone to the synthetic.
There's nothing wrong with cheating a little bit.
What I will say, one of my favorite, superintendent ground staff crossovers is that Justin DePippo, the superintendent at Bel Air.
Oh yeah.
Obviously some of the most expensive homes in the world surround his golf course.
Yeah.
And one of his perks of his job is he gives an extra day off for his staff, so that they can take landscaping jobs on the surrounding homes.
It's spectacular.
And he's like, it's like, all the homeowners apparently come to him. How should I take care of this yard?
Yeah.
And he sets them up with his guys, and they probably, it's a substantial boom in their salary.
Yeah.
To maintain these, $80 million homes. And he gives them an extra day off, and it's just like a symbiotic relationship. But I imagine also, it keeps the relationship of a homeowner, as we've seen in the Northeast. There have been some contentious homeowner golf course relationships, some actually absurd ones.
Yeah,
like the Quaker Ridge one to me is the most ridiculous.
Yeah, cherry on top, right? Yeah, that is the cream of the crop. That one. But you're 100% right. Like, you have to have great relationships with your neighbors out here, and that is I've taken pieces of equipment from the club to other neighbors' homes on property more frequently than my home, because it's easier and more important, I would say, to take care of them. So those mornings when you kick on a blower too early, you got a new guy out there and he's he's not following our rules, or forgot the rule, or whatever the case may be. But we've definitely gone over and chipped up fallen trees, or scarified a yard, or just trying anything and everything to keep them on your good side. However, golf courses tend to be the best neighbors you can have, and other than the early mornings. But it is a very important relationship for sure. Especially right now, we're getting ready to do some renovation work, and I'm actually getting ready to go out and do a couple walk arounds and knocking on doors, and
You're like a
thanking
local
them for
politician.
Oh, baby, yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing Michigan State taught me well. This is you're not going to school to just grow grass. You also have to be a politician, Jay.
What do they do in that regard? Like I think like going to school to be a superintendent is a very science, like technical heavy education.
Sure.
What is the schools? How do they kind of prepare you for navigating the political landscape of a club or a course?
Yeah. So when I was there, we started. Dr. Rogers started like an etiquette class, like an etiquette training, as if like so. Look, this is how you get fitted for a suit. This is the silverware you should use. If there's multiple forks, this is what this one is, and work your way outside. So yeah, we created a little class like that. I'm sure it's in existence because I thought it was kind of a stroke of genius for a lot of our guys. But he's also, they're also very good, like especially like a Dr. Rogers or Mr. Crum, or a lot of these great professors we have in our industry. They understand the world we're getting ready to dive into, and they have a number of stories that they tell you, that kind of, it gets the point across to be, all right, you got to be buttoned up and polished, but at the same time, your passion for growing grass is still the key that gets you home safe every day, But yeah, there's a fine line between breaking bread and managing somebody's piece of property. You got to be able to do both a little bit.
We're gonna get back to the family tree in a second.
Okay.
I've heard from multiple people that you are extraordinary dealing with members. Interacting with them, raising money for projects, getting buy-in on different things. Working with various committees. What are kind of, if you were going to synthesize it down into a couple keys with how you do this? And I think this like applies to all aspects of life, like, right?
Yeah.
Like this applies to somebody who's a consultant. It applies to somebody, anybody that works with people, really. What are some of your keys to navigating the complexity of a life at a club? As I think like this is like one of the trickiest things. You are the person in the room that knows the most about the subject matter, most likely, but you're in a room with a bunch of people that think they know the most.
Yeah. Some simple stuff. I always say, what is it? Keep it simple, stupid, right? I think that's a great line for this. The reality is my father taught me at a young age, treat people the way you want to be treated, right? And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Those are two keys, right? So I've also learned a great deal of patience from a number of my members, watching them navigate these waters. So I would think that, first of all, treating people the way you want to be treated is. My brother told me a line one time before I started interviewing, and Dan, sorry for giving this one up, but it's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's, to a golf course superintendent, that's reality. These greens out here, these are my kids. I have two beautiful daughters, but then I have these 19 greens out here that are at my absolute babies. And you think about them all the time, and you need constant coverage and babysitting. And so if you treat your greens, you treat your members like you treat your greens, you know what I mean? You're going to be doing well. So my job, right, is to educate everybody, to make sure they're as educated as possible. And I do that simply by getting people much smarter than myself. Steve McDonald, for instance, who's been on this podcast.
Yeah.
Smartest man in golf. Jaeger Kovich, or former architect at the Patterson Club and with the Fazio Group. Here was Tom Marzoff, extremely intelligent man. I would use the people that we have hired to basically sign off on what we're trying to accomplish here. As in, Steve, what are your thoughts on the ergonomic side of what we're trying to do here? What's the design factor? Okay, those two, we got sign off on those two. You could even throw a guy like Herb Stevens in, our weather guy. People have, there's a lot of chatter about Herb Stevens, but it's nice to not have to be the guy that cancels the outing. It's nice that Herb's saying, you guys, you're going to get out there and you're going to be sopping wet the whole day. Not
Is he
coming
a member?
from Jason Meersman. What's that?
Is he a member?
No, he's not a member, but we subscribe to his weather forecasting. It's long range weather forecasting. And
I was going to say, Larry David warned us of meteorologist weatherman. I don't know if you're a
Oh yeah, one of my favorites ever. Don't get me started.
I almost out there. It's perfectly sunny. He's the only one on the golf course after he told everybody it was going to rain all day.
One of my favorites, by the way. Either that one or when he stole the tip. They stole the tip from the bench and then went out and hit the guy and didn't yell for because the guy was deaf. Anyway, Larry David, I almost went down to, when I was graduating from Michigan State, I was 100% ready to go with Steve Glossinger, Caves Valley, and so glad I did. But there was a part of me that so desperately wanted to go out to like Riviera just to try to get to know Larry David.
Yeah.
My single favorite maybe of all time.
I think like about
control.
Like my dream foursome, he's got to be in it. Like
absolutely,
the commentary. He's just so himself. Like you could tell that's exactly who he is.
Yeah,
as a person.
It would be awkward and funny the whole time. It would be great. Like I misspeak all the time, so it would be perfect. He'd be tearing me apart, and then anyway, it'd be great. It'd be great. But yeah, so I don't know if I ever buttoned up that beautiful question you asked me, but at the same time, like, kill them with kindness, be yourself, love them, they're going to love you back. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I'm not here to sell a project or raise money for this thing. My reality is I have to keep people understanding where we stand, and keep them educated on that. And then as a team, we have to make, the decisions for what's best for the club, period, and I think with these intelligent people we surround ourselves with and calling my brother for a little advice or calling Steve Rabideau for some advice or, just Mike DeHusky down at Shelter Harbor. Like we got a great group of support out here in the Northeast and, there's a number of people that come to your beck and aid to make sure you have the answers and the knowledge to be, to help lead these people through what is very tough decisions for them, Anyway,
I think like one of the things that you said that resonates to me is be yourself. I think so often you see like it's like as someone who grew up working at a club, you feel like you have to put up this facade of like always politeness, and that can sometimes mask your personality. But when I think back to like as young Andy coming of age, in college, like who became my best relationships were who were members were often people that I caddied for regularly, where I would spend a lot of time. Sure. And you lose that veil of how you felt like you had to act because of how much time you spent with someone, and this was me in my 20s, right? When I was young. And like when I think back to it now, is like those people actually got to know me,
Yeah.
And if you just let people in sooner and kind of, be polite, be understand like, the politeness, but like also show them who you are. Speak to them the way you would speak to your friends,
Yeah.
and they are more likely going to develop like a real relationship with you and respect you, because like, that I think that's something as you get older, you like kind of realize, but it's like, there's no sense putting up this like false facade, right? Because you're
Oh,
never then
absolutely.
going to have a relationship of significance, and especially in your position where you're trying to get things done. You need to have that deeper relationship with people in order to push things through.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to build that trust, right? Like, I always tell people that come up to me and they're like, "Hey, Jay, there's something over here. There's something over there." And, you want to get to it. I always say, if you're seeing it, I'm losing sleep over it. I've already seen it. I promise you. And if I haven't, I'll jump right on it. Sometimes people will give me what I call layups, right? Hey, Jay, is there any chance we could get an extra flower pot over here? Done. Jay, the trash can over here. And sometimes I might explain to them why we tried that. It doesn't work out. But other times I'm like, well, that's a layup. Cut a path to the forward tee box on 2 from 1, so you don't have to walk through the tall grass or walk around. Yeah, I'll cut you a little path. Let's do that. That's a layup. Let's get that one done. Check the box.
What's your least favorite? If someone tells you something, like, is it like there's some dead grass somewhere? Is that your least favorite? Like what? Well,
the least favorite's when you don't know.
Which one kills?
It's communication when your staff, forgot to mention. Oh, I forgot to mention that. My bad. No. I need to know everything. If there's a stone that's been turned, I need to know it, right? Like, yeah, you can't not. And, this year we've done so much work with communication and really trying to communicate to the membership about all the work that's coming at us here. And it's hard to be everywhere at once, and you're really relying on your people for this communication. And so when you get caught and you don't know what they're talking about, that's when it's the worst. Other than that, it's like, I'm either going to ride the complaint wave with you and try to do better, or else I'm gonna go fix it right away. But yeah, here's a good one for you. A lot of people are asking me about this project we're doing. They're like, "Jay,
I was going to ask about the project.
Jay, what's your favorite part?" They all think I'm going to be like, like you. I'm an architect nerd, right? Like, oh, I love number 4 or number 5, or oh, this is going to be a great mound here. It's going to get the ball ricocheting and moving all over the place, or we're going to open up the bunkers. No. The most exciting part to me is not wasting money on bunkers that are 7 years past their life expectancy, or an irrigation system that's been, leaking like a sieve for 5-6 years. And, I'm just really excited to not be wasting that money, because we're going to be able to do so much more for you. I mean, we're going to have divots filled quicker. We're going to be plugging divots. We're going to be, what else can we do? Let's get more done. That's the reality of it. I mean, but so anyway, it's exciting.
Your golf course, every time I talk to you, you remind me that I think the number's the 9th RTJ.
Oh, number 11.
What? 11. I knew it was the two numbers that were coming into my head were 9 and 13, and it ends up being right in the middle. RTJ golf course. You're going to do a major project on this golf course. Jagerkovich is going to fingers crossed. I think the master plan's
we're in the middle
approved.
of the boat right now. I don't know what it looks like. I know there's been great participation by the members, and I know the team that has done the communications for it there's a love fest there. We've been working so many hours together. It's been fun. They've done an amazing job. And fingers are crossed that this is going to go through. The reality is the master planning is done. And so what we're going to do has already been planned out. It's just how we're going to execute that is not 100% set in stone yet, but pretty close.
With just the history, RTJ, Robert Trent Jones, one of the most revered golf architects in the history of golf.
Oops,
you're an early golf course of his, which I think for the most part, the early work was the most celebrated of RTJ. What has been, the kind of process for maybe pushing slightly away from his original work, and what has been the kind of how have you guys gone about getting the membership to the point you're at now?
Great question. I 1 second though on that. I do want to remind you the first time we ever met. Do you remember this National Golf Links?
National
Golf Links. Yeah. I was touring National Golf Links with Mr. Salonetti, the amazing superintendent out there. It was my first time on property, and I'm like a kid in a candy store, just looking around, and I see you out there, and you're playing. I'm like, I ran up to you. I go, Andy, Jason Meersman, golf course superintendent of the Patterson Club, Robert Trent Jones 11th. And you started laughing. Like you were like, yeah, that's exactly. Anyway, that was how we met, and then
This is a perfect way to disarm.
Perfect intro, right? To a golf historian, right? Number 11. Anyway, it's so funny. Yeah. So,
God, that was like 2018.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
2017, maybe.
No, it was right. When did Shinnecock host the U.S. Open? I had a picture on here somewhere. I was volunteering.
It was 2018.
So that was 18. Yeah.
It was the second major championship that I covered in person.
Oh, awesome.
Maybe third.
You're just hot. You're just getting hot then, huh? You're playing national too?
I didn't stay the whole week. I couldn't afford to stay the whole week. We didn't have enough money in the business account. So I was only there from like Monday or Tuesday to Friday. Yeah. Those are awesome. early years.
That's great. Yeah. So I was volunteering for Mr. Jennings. He's put me to work. Great stuff. Great week.
Yeah. Great week.
So back to first of all, our history, there's some fun stuff that I like to talk about when it comes to Patterson Club's history. And, number one is, first of all, we were his 11th golf course, but if you look at his archives, you'll see that Augusta National hired Robert Trent Jones Sr. the same year that we employed him to build our golf course. Excuse me. The Patterson Club was originally a GE established club. So the president and CEO, who most likely were members at Augusta National and pretty tied in with the boys there, just doing some of the world's best work. I always say that I can only imagine the interview process and one of these guys from GE saying, "Hey, let's hire this young guy, and then by the way, why don't you stop up in Fairfield and whip us up a golf course real quick?" And so, long story short, here, number 11, he comes up here, and it's just an amazing piece of property. It's just a beautiful piece of property, and he put out some beautiful golf holes. And, there's some interesting facts, like our 18th hole was never finished. They were working on some tree work through the driving, which is currently our driving range. And $100,000 shy of finishing the tree work. We'll just do it next year. Never happens.
Wait. So it wasn't finished.
Oh, no. They just walked to the top of the hill and put the tees instead of going through the woods and playing the golf hole. They had finished the green. So the green was set up to play. Yeah. Oh, no. This is, yeah. So they basically, 15 would have been, our current 15 would have been 17 originally. And it would have been a great final stretch of holes. And they were getting ready to finish 18 and we're not going to get those trees cleared in time. Let's put the tees at the top of the hill, play down the hill. And like I said, they probably were like, we'll just do it next year.
They just
never happens. Never happens. Things happen. That's how it works. And, and then late 60s, I think 1960. I've looked at all the old overheads. I think like 1968, they started using it as a driving range and, piped off a stream that would have been strategic in the final hole. And long story short, what's a country club without a driving range now? So this actually, it's kind of funny how this works, but it almost kind of helps us in a way that like what we're trying to accomplish now is to really improve our short game practice, driving range. And we can do that with a slight reroute to our golf course, which, was highlighted by a number of architects in the past, but we really tasked Jaeger Kovich with during this. How do we create, these better short game practice area, driving range, but at the same time improve our golf course? And he's created a great opportunity for us. He saw this after many days of walking around in the cold in our Carhartts. And anyway, that's going to be that was kind of the biggest hurdle, is trying to get everybody to understand that. But then the rest of that renovation, we're looking at about, 70% restoration, 30% renovation, so really kind of paying a lot of homage to Robert Trent Jones Sr. and bringing some of his earlier work back, some of the things he had planned earlier, bringing those things back and really kind of highlighting those. For instance, our fourth hole, we're going to kind of do what you would see like 8 at Augusta National, the big mounds around the greens, and let the ball just bounce and run around. And it's a really neat, narrow banana-shaped green, and just kind of improving the interest of that golf hole. Also making it a little bit more playable for the higher handicap golfer and more strategic for the lower handicap golfer. So we're really focused on doing a number of those types of things while, really paying homage to him. On number 6, he had a really great hit it high and hope volcano hole, short par 3. It was really the only short par 3 on property. And, now we're looking at kind of bringing something back, not 100% back to what he had, because it was a little diabolical. People stopped playing it for a reason. So let's pay a little homage to it. Let's cut it into the side of the hill, make a little postage stamp out of it. And it's going to be the 6th try on our 6th green. It's been done multiple times. So, it's just our turn to try to get it right.
It's an interesting, I think like one of the things when I think about golf history, and I know you're into golf history, is like the Great Depression and World War II created like this, like just stop and almost like very abrupt restart almost 20 years from the last time new golf was being built. There were a few golf courses, but what happened was, like all of the ties to the old style, like this of rapidly evolving new practice of golf architecture.
Sure.
All the ties were pretty much broken. There were a few that had ties to that era of golf design. RTJ, Dick Wilson being two of them. And it's like the early stuff with RTJ has a flair to it. If you looked at and you think about like Dick Wilson, if you look at some old pictures of Dick Wilson's designs, especially early in his career, there was a real late golden age look and style to it. But then when you it almost was like they became part of the next era. In a lot of it had to do with like, I think, societal trends. Like it was kind of what was going on in the world. This like this like peak manufacturing era, this like simplicity, like subdivision, are huge in housing in the 50s and 60s. And it's like, it's just like a very, like I think like RTJ built so many golf courses over so many years and had his fingerprints on so many of the great golden age golf courses that sometimes like he built a lot of golf courses, and a lot of golf courses might not be the greatest golf courses, but he did build some that were fascinatingly unique, and particularly early in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I could only imagine, right? You're what, he had over 500 golf courses. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to be getting to a point where that's my favorite. Here's my list of 32 greens. I'm going to give you a 7, a 12, a 14. Yeah. Let's have a, I mean, I don't know. That's how
it also
I couldn't imagine
point,
doing it any other way.
It gets to the point where you're not even visiting. You
right,
know?
Right.
Like,
or
it's like I show up on for the sales meeting, opening day and opening day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. It's he became like the first kind of I mean, he was the big name golf course architect, right? He was the first guy that was like, this is my career, this is the only thing I'm going to do, and this is who I am. And so 500 golf courses, I wonder how many he didn't show up to, right? He's never been to. But at the same time, he's got a number of people in this career. He started off their careers in golf, building golf courses for him, junior architects, so just amazing footprint or thumbprint in the business itself, kind of sparking all these jobs and all these professions. And I always like even my little role in the golf, right, as the golf course superintendent, director of grounds and greens. And
don't call me a superintendent.
Yeah, director. I have DOG on my golf ball. Director of grounds. Don't
call me a superintendent. I'm the director of grounds.
Yeah. So I want to. Yeah. Well, Anyway,
I personally like across the pond when they get master greenskeeper. Like if you could get master in your title, I think that's just like a huge.
I remember my grandfather. Back to him. He was very against the greenskeeper title. He wanted it to be the golf course superintendent.
Well, this is the thing. It keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Now it's like disrespectful to say superintendent. I heard.
No, that's the best role there is. My superintendent Steve Kubicki is a wild man. And then I have a superintendent facilities, Mike Orchef, amazing guys. They're killing it on a daily basis. But at the same time, like that's the fun stuff. I get to go. What's that?
I heard a recent story of a friend of mine meeting a new superintendent and them correcting them, saying, "I am the director of agronomy, not the superintendent." And I thought, I
don't do any corrections. Back to that, I think the first or second question. Yeah, I don't correct people very often.
It's it's interesting in my personal opinion. Hey, you've been a part of this. This might be like a great question for you. It might be a terrible question. You grew up in turf. You've lived, your life has been this.
Yeah.
With young people in turf now, like how do you think that the role and the people have changed? Like how is the profession, industry, and the young people coming into the industry, how's it evolved?
Yeah, good question. When I started out, when I was an assistant, it was 60 to 80 hours a week, It was go, 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 go. And nowadays it's very different, and your employees are very different. And how has it changed? The professionals themselves, I mean, deep down we're all the same, right? But at the same time, you have your what I call Tinkerbells, right? The guys who want to try everything, the guys who just can't help but to keep trying new things. Love it. And then I'm very much on their shoulder going, how's that working out for you? But then you have the guys who,
I love that. That's an entrepreneur right there. That's entrepreneurial spirit. Like they want to test boundaries. They're testing boundaries
24/7. I mean, I could name a list of them, and they're spectacular what they do. And then there's the so you always have your same people, right? Like the guys that we're all kind of, let's figure it out and get it done. Present a superintendent, a director of grounds, whatever you want to call them, with a task, and they're going to figure out a way to do it, right? They're always going to come up with 15 different ways, and then might not be the best time, but they're never going to stop thinking about it until they figure out the single best way to accomplish what they're being asked to do. Which that's kind of the nature of our business, right? and love the people that are constantly, coming up with new ways. But the world's just changed so much. And what I mean by that is, like, people aren't signing up to work 60 to 80 hours and, the increase in wages, we can't pay the overtime like that anymore. And so you have to get creative and think out of the box. We do a lot of evening maintenance, and a lot of evening maintenance, a lot of part-time, a lot of just finding really good people in the community to come out and help you out. Just yesterday I was talking to somebody, and this woman was like, "Oh, my husband's retiring. He's going to be a retired firefighter." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm licking my chops." I'm like, "Oh, get him in here. Let's get him mowing rough. Let's get him mowing fairways. Like anything to take a little bit of stress off the core team." So you're always you have to evolve. You have to be willing to change. Or you're just a cowboy and you're sticking to your guns and you're saying, "I'm going to work these guys 80 hours a week." And you better be able to pull all the best college students if you're that guy, So, it's changed a lot. The people, hands are still calloused, though. The hands are still calloused and the hours are still real. So I don't think that much has changed when it comes to that.
All right, let's take a quick break to talk about Toro. This episode is sponsored by Toro. Did you know Toro has a full line of work vehicles? Whether you're hauling materials, towing equipment, or shuttling VIPs, Toro has a vehicle for just about any need. Their Workman series is your go-to for power and payload capacity, and the Vista series is perfect for guest transportation with a comfortable ride. Plus, Toro has tons of options to customize your work vehicle, including all electric models. So check them out on Toro.com. All right, let's get back to Jason Meersman. How do you, with two daughters, how do you go try and have work-life balance in your own life?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
Maybe one that you haven't solved?
I definitely have not solved that. I'll be quite honest with you. When I solve that, I'll let you know. No, but for me, it's been basketball, coaching their basketball teams. So wintertime slows down a little bit, and I get to go be Coach J instead of Coach K.
What kind of are you on the forefront of girls basketball analytics? Are you installing zones?
I take the air out of the ball to teach them how to pass before they dribble. They get the ball, they want to dribble. No, we're going to play with a flat basketball, and I want you thinking pass first. We started. Oh gosh, I've had so much fun coaching girls basketball. Unfortunately, it's the first year I'm not doing it. We have a lot going on. I'm really bummed, but I'm still actively at their practices, cheering them on.
You're not even going to move into assistant role, special assistant role?
We'll see. I'm not nearly as good of an assistant coach as I am a head coach. I like to be leading the conversations at those practices and then behaving myself during the games, But no, I've loved it. I've loved it to death. That's been a great one. Also just like, date days, right? Just got to have those date days. I just had a date day with my daughter Luella the other day. We went to a Patriots game, and I was wearing my Bears t-shirt. Yeah, I was wearing my Chicago Bears t-shirt, and I almost dressed up as Dicka. I like to put on the fake mustache and some aviators and my cool sweater. But
we gotta get you this head cover.
She talked me out of it. Oh my gosh, you have to give me. Yeah, we'll have to trade for something nice. That's spectacular, by the way.
I'll send that out. That was a swag golf Dicka head cover. Free ad here in this Toro pod.
Yeah. That thing's I hope that one finds its way to Fairfield. That's for sure.
I will. I owe PJ who's producing this. I owe him a package of Champions Tour gear. So I need to go to the UPS facility near me, and I'll send that as well.
Well, I'll be happy to send a bluebird back. All right, the best logo in golf. I don't know how we don't get the nod there from time to time. My brother's always.
You know what? The whole ranking logos thing is such bullshit because nobody can take apart and remove the logo from the place. Like, you look at them, and I want to be clear.
Yeah.
This is as someone who did the first ever logo madness. Me and Zach did it like 8 years ago.
That.
Now everybody does it. And we thought about making it an annual thing, but we're like, it's just going to be the same logos. And guess what happens? Every time somebody does it, next year it'll be the same. The same logos make it. And they're all great golf courses. Like, I would respect the logo contest if some golf course I'd never heard of that has an awesome logo made it to the finals
on there.
But it's Marion, Wingfoot, Maidstone's going to make it far. Sleepy Hollow's going to make it far. It is
that cricket club gets in there. They're always in the like top 20. I'm like, what? Look at the bluebird on the hickory stick. Come on, I'm a birder.
So anyways, there's my rant on the logo contest. Is if you could somehow remove the names and if you could do the Men in Black, light thing. PJ probably never even saw Men in Black, but you could do the memory thing where you just wipes away everybody's memory.
Yeah.
The logos that win wouldn't win. Yeah,
because green speed shouldn't be in the conversation when you're picking logos, right? Like, come on.
You want to talk about green speed?
No.
You brought it up. Honestly,
I don't know where we're going. We've been all over the place. Let's keep going.
We still have to get back to the family tree. I'm not gonna, but the family tree was going to be the jumping off point. It's the through line of the whole episode.
Sure.
But the greens, I honestly find myself sometimes, and people are probably going to think I'm a snob or I'm some like golf hipster. I don't know. You either get described as a hippie or like, oh, that golf course snob. Like, I find myself like actively hating Northeast golf in the Northeast.
What?
Like I actively dislike it because of how fast the greens are. Because
they're so scary, really, aren't they?
It's honestly, it like ruined some of the golf courses.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they haven't softened, some of these older golf courses,
why are we softening the slopes?
What's
the discourse as a superintendent at your club around green speeds? How's that work?
Well, I try to. My golf pro is adamant with me about, Jay, don't make them too fast, and I completely agree with him. We first of all don't have many hole locations on our greens right now, anyways. So, I have 3 to 5. 11.5, the greens play perfect. And 12's like a member guest, invitational, something like that. You get over that here, and there's nowhere to put a whole location. And by the way, you're just turning 6s into 7s and 7s into 8s, right? And what fun is that? And we're very much a family club here, and we try to make. It's very important to know who your customer is. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was from Dave Dodonis during we were hosting a Met event here for the Met superintendents. And he said, Jay, your green speeds were perfect for your greens, for the slopes. They were actually perfect. And I thanked him kindly for that, because that's truly what we're trying to do. I want to see putts go in. I don't want to see people embarrassed, and I don't want to make the game unplayable. It's too easy to do that. It's too easy to do that on accident, let alone on purpose. But I had a member one time, a board member, who we were talking about modifying greens because the green speeds technologies, greens are growing so fast that back in 1946 when we were created, it just didn't match, right? It doesn't match. And one of our board members raised their hand. She goes, why don't we just slow down the greens? I was like, are we going to vote? Should we vote?
It's the most logical thing that, like, it rarely is even discussed as an option.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. You know,
like
it's a balance, though, isn't it?
The thing that I find amazing about the whole discourse is Scotty Scheffler. In terms of like, if he came to your club, he'd be the best putter on the grounds that day. Like people are, oh, he sucks at putting. He sucks at putting when compared. He's not great at putting when compared to like the greatest putters in the world.
Andy, I never miss. I don't know if you've known that about me on the golf course. I've yet to miss. Okay.
So anyways, like I think about his all-time bad putting performances. And I think that nothing was worse than his putting this year at the Open at Troon. It was like unwatchable. You know why? Because the greens were slow.
9.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to take a real stroke at a ball when the greens are rolling like that, you know?
You have to be like so aggressive. It's not just like I have to just wiggle this onto the line and then I got it on the line. It's going in, and because of how fast they are, there's not a lot of slope. So I probably just have to get this on the edge. It's not going to break that much. When the greens are slow and your stroke doesn't feel good, it is like a horrifying proposition. Like you are terrified of 3-footers. You're terrified of 5-footers.
Everything.
You know, when you're 15 feet away, you have no shot of hitting a ball on line. But then, like, conversely, when you're like feel great about your stroke, it's like, I can't miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like don't understand. Like, I was a couple years ago at like a very historic golf course, and they were telling me about how they're going to change the screen. It's like, it's one of the most revered holes in the world. And it's like, wait, you're going to soften the green? Like these, the greens are 4 feet too fast, and you're going to soften the green.
Right.
You're going to like, this is famous green, and you're going to change the green rather than just slow the greens down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. You know, obviously the greens are always evolving, but you're 100% right. Like, you know, between bunker splash and mow lines and things like that. But at the same time, it is almost like we've confused ourselves and made it very challenging to come up with the proper answer there. You know, people want fast greens just for peacock feathers, you know?
That's the thing. It's like they go down the street to a club and the greens are fast and they putt one off the green and they're like, oh, that was freaking awesome. You know, can we do that here? Why can't we have that here?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that gets misunderstood and is like the trueness. People, I think, associate trueness with speed.
Sure.
And don't think you could have a reasonably paced screen with that same trueness. Is that harder? Is that something that like you?
Oh no, smoothness is everything. Yeah, like so, like you think about it, like during our invitationals, right? We run out there and roll greens or re-roll them with the squeegees from time to time. If they're too fast, we'll just hit them with the squeegee, just get them smooth again. And that's just for footprints. That's just for ball marks, things of that nature, little foot scuffing and things, like that. But the reality is, I always try to, you always try to keep them. They got to just fit where you are. Those speeds have to fit where you are. But like the smoothness and trueness is everything to me. Like if I see a line, and once you hone in your speed and you see that line, you want it to stay on line. Period. But you don't have to ramp up the speed just to get that trueness.
Is it easier to have true greens if greens are, let's just say, a 10 or a 13?
No, true is just on smoothness, and a lot of times it's early out on a or frequency of roll. So you can have them 10.5, 11, and it can be true as can be. And just like they would be at a 12, 13, don't get me wrong, 12 or 13 is just going further past the hole, the same scuff marks, the same ball marks, the same, somebody walking your line is going to create the unevenness, the lack of true ball roll.
Wouldn't those scuff marks and stuff be amplified the tighter the grass is?
No, the longer it is, typically you would have more. The scuffs show longer. Like so, in the summer months, when you're August and it's puffy and maybe you've backed off heights of hair, when people start scuffing their feet, it shows a little bit more. But again, you're out there checking moisture and hitting it with the hose and blowing bunker splash and tap down the spike marks. They don't have to be cruising at 13, 14s, but that's just.
What evolution in agronomy are you most excited for? Like what type of new, like what's the new thing that you would most like to see?
Well, I mean, we're talking agronomy. I've been big this year. We brought in 14 new robotic mowers. We have the little Husqvarna. I don't know if I'm supposed to do plugs here, but little Husqvarna robot mowers. See, spectacular.
They're cute little guys.
Cute little guy. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're talking. We got to name them here at the club. All my members want to name them, so we're going to auction off naming them. Maybe find a good charity to promote. Anyway, but it's just about consistency, about noise, about safety, and minimizing the amount of times. We still mow with the regular mower that rough from time to time. We also do our range tee, and I'm hoping to, we demoed a fairway unit this year and loved it. Just helps with you keeping up on the consistency of the the playability. And those big mowers are loud, and you're training somebody, you're filling it with fuel and all this, and you still have to do it, but just not nearly as much. If we could go from having to mow our fairways 4 times a week to 2 times a week with the big units through these robots, I think it's a no-brainer. Gives us more time to do some of that detail work that our members notice more than anything.
The fairways are the big are the big one left to like really solve, right?
Yeah. So again, a number of people will mow. Yeah, it depends what your fairway heights are. The one that we have our fairways just under, right around 0.3 of an inch. So this robot was definitely cutting grass, and if we, like I said, I think we went to mowing it twice a week versus like 3 to 4 times a week, and these robots they just keep you looking good, looking right, give it a nice clean cut, and then that's way also when you go back out to cut, you're not taking so much grass off the plant, right? That will stress it a little bit more, but also just the grass that's building up in the reels and things of that nature, and it just gets a little messier. So again, it's more about just consistency. Our rough this year has been spectacular. It was the first time I've ever heard our rough is too easy. So I was like, what? Never thought I'd hear that. I heard it from a 22 handicapper. But I like our golf course is a lot of fun, and the greens are pinched off by bunkers from our last renovation, and so it's very challenging to hold our greens. Yeah. So I really try to just keep the rough maintained at a 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, and let you get on the back of the ball. I want it to be a quarter shot penalty, not an entire shot penalty. So these robots have allowed us to do that and execute our rough exactly how we want to. So that's been great.
Let's get back to the family tree.
Okay.
So we're at your father and uncle maintaining South Bend municipal golf courses.
Yeah.
And this is where your brother and you come into the equation.
Yeah. So he started working for my dad a year before I did, and that's when I was like that's when I was jealous. That's when I was like, ooh. I remember like it's yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's getting to go out there and work. I can't wait. And he started working. I think I started when we moved up to Michigan. So we were in South Bend, and I just got to hang out at that property and watch him work and kind of see it all unfold. But when we went up to Michigan, that's when I got to start working, and that's where Dan and I would be there in the morning, and we'd either be raking all 36 holes of bunkers. Or
where in Michigan?
Three Rivers, Michigan, place called Pine View. It's a 36 hole. It was single owner, semi-private. Still is. Spectacular golf course. My brother got married there. It's just our home away from home. We go back and it's like a time capsule. Like nothing's changed. People are still amazing, so friendly. Like I said, the only problem with the place is my dad's tree plantings. No, not true. It's still a great place. And, anyway, but we had a lot of fun in our last couple of visits there. But yeah, Dan and I got there in the morning, first thing in the morning. We'd work our tails off for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we'd go out and start golfing. He would be out there with towels on the driving range. I remember this well. I was always trying to clear the tree line in the back of the range, while he was, very methodically had towels laid out every 5 to 10 yards, and he was chipping and working on his short game. And
what does that tell you about the two of you and how you are as superintendents? That sounds like drastically different personalities.
Drastically different personalities, yeah. He's the single greatest consultant I could possibly have because he balances me so well,
Uh-huh. So that's amazing.
It is. It's very fortunate for that consultant / brother.
Yeah. So then you guys got into the industry and
yeah.
Any cousins that have gotten into it too?
No, our cousin was smart enough to get out of the industry. No, they didn't. Yeah, no, I think we caught the bug early, and we both kind of looked at going leaving the industry at one point, and we were like, no, it just pulls you right back in. Like I said earlier, the people surrounding this game are just so good, and it's hard to get away from. So basically what happened is, we both went to Kalamazoo Valley Community College to play golf and to figure out if this is exactly what we want to do. And then we ended up going to Michigan State, Sparty on. Turf grass program there. Dr. Rogers, Dr. Crum, two of my favorite people. We lost Mr. Vargas, or Dr. Vargas recently. But just some great people there that again, passionate about growing grass, and they're a bunch of Tinkerbells, we're all just trying to figure out the best way to skin the cat,
What's the best from, it could be your brother, it could be one of your classmates, it could be a superintendent down the street. What's an example of a Tinkerbell trying something and it becoming standard practice?
Well, Steve Glossinger made this little snout that Pat Sisk perfected. It was a little snout on the end of a push blower. We call it the Little Wonder. I forget what it's actually called. We call it the Little Wonder because that was the name of the push blower. But it's a little attachment that grabs the wind and forces it straight down. So after you put top dressing on top of holes, it helps it blow it in the holes. That was one that worked out well until we realized Buffalo blowers probably just as good, if not better. It's a long list. So my father and I always called it fence climbing, right? We'd be traveling, we would always travel in our old celebrity to the family vacations, and they were usually wrapped around the golf conference or something of that nature. And we would camp on the way out and camp on the way back. And every time we saw a golf course, it was like squirrel,
Yeah, I love driving on the road, and even the ones on the highway that are never good.
There's a maintenance facility. Let's go in there. We bop in there and see. Oh wow, milk crates on the back of a bunker rake, so we could hold our tools in there. Oh, that makes too much sense. You're always grabbing great ideas from people. We talked about Bel Air Country Club earlier. I was out there and stole their trash cans this year. They have these trash cans that look like stumps. They've been a huge hit at the Patterson Club, and all we did was line the old ones with wood and then cut out the tie. It was genius. I mean, you're always taking these ideas from other people and celebrating them. I never pretend like they're mine, I mean, heck, Steve Rabideau let us borrow some cores from his aeration on his greens, and we have greens expansions that are going to be done during our project with wing foot POA, basically. So you're always trying to.
If you listen to any professional golfer, though, POA stinks. They're all holding on to. I feel like all the old golfers that are on TV hold on to chance. Like 1996 Pebble Beach greens. Like that is why they hold this resentment towards the surface.
Yeah, no. First of all, that Northeast POA is some of the best POA you've ever seen, right? It's right up there with that Pittsburgh POA. So those guys obviously have never played wing foot, all right? None of them, except for that DeChambeau fella, I think did pretty well there. Yeah. I've played some of the best greens in the world, I think, and I've seen them both bent and POA. So a lot of it's just like you said earlier, it's kind of just how you're rolling it that day plays an important role in your true view on the type of grass. So if it's going in, it's going in. You love it. If it's not, you don't love it.
It's we're gonna get you out of here now. This has been a fun conversation. We'll maybe do part 2 someday. Last question: How are you feeling about the beloved Bears?
Oh, Chicago Bears. Oh, buddy. I originally wanted him to get a king's ransom for that first pick, but after watching Hard Knocks, I kind of like Caleb. He seems like a good guy that's going to figure it out. Love that last game. He looked pretty good. But like any team, you gotta get a little further into the season before you're got it all figured out. That offensive line needs to keep solidifying their purpose for us, right? And stop laying down on plays.
They need to have. It seems like they need to have a purpose.
Yeah. Well, last 2 they looked better. All right.
They did.
As a true Chicago Bear fan, I don't. I do all my trash talk in the off season, and then I just I go to the games and support and talk as if I have no clue about anything. Right. Bears 1,000. -16 for the Patriots.
That's the Patriots resemble a lot of our Bears teams in the last couple decades right now. So, Jason, big thanks for coming on. I'm gonna get this head cover boxed up. I'm gonna tell our friends. We're gonna tell our friends at Swag that it's finding a home that's really gonna appreciate it. And
excellent.
It was appreciated at my home. I think I've found somebody that might appreciate it even more. So hey, thank you for coming on. People can find you. You're on Twitter, right?
I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place. I'm easy to find.
This conversation was all over the place.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
Big thanks, and look forward to seeing you maybe at the show this winter, San Diego.
Perfect.
That's an easy one for me. It's a home. Yeah. It's a home game for me.
Yeah, let's try to get around to golfing.
Yeah, we should.
Love to.
I'd like the idea of that.
Yeah. It would be just like this conversation. We'll be all over the place.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Friday Golf Podcast. Hey, big thanks to Jason for coming on. Big thanks to PJ Clark for editing and producing this podcast. As a reminder, as I said at the top, we have the Donald Ross North Carolina shirt in the pro shop. All proceeds from that are going to support Hurricane Helene relief in North Carolina. Thank you to everybody whose bottom is way exceeded what we thought when we were going to launch this. We hope to keep it going. We would love to really give them a sizable check. So you can check those out at proshop.thefriedegg.com. It's right there at the homepage.